Okay, now let's write the functionality to log in the user, and we're going to be a little bit faster with this one because most of what we're going to do here we've done in the first part, which is to register the user. So when a user tries to sign in, what do they do? Well, they provide their email and their password. So we're going to get that from the body, the request body. So I'll come here. Oh, I need to get rid of this guy. We're not using it anymore. So I'll come here and I will just get the username and password first. So const, and I'm going to destructure it from, so sorry, email and password. I'll destructure it from the request body. So request the body. So now when you have the email and the password from the request body, what do you want to do next? You want to add some validation. So validate request, and to validate that request we're just going to use an if statement to make sure that the fields are not empty. So I'll say that if there is no email or password, in other words, if it's an empty string, then I want to throw an error. Now because I've already thrown errors a couple of times, I'll just grab the command here to save time and paste that in. So it's going to be bad request 400, and then I'm just going to say please add email and password. So please add email and password. Yeah, then all right. So now what if the email and the password is entered into the field? In other words, we get the email and the password. Well, we want to check if that user exists in our database. So let's check if user exists. And this time I'm not going to give it a variable name of user exists. I'll just say user. So const user. And how are we going to do that? Well, we are going to await user. So we're using the user model, user dot, and we want to find one. Now what do we want to use to find what parameter do we want to search in the database? Well, we want to use the email. So if we check our database and we find that user email, then we know that that user exists. The next thing is we want to check if the password the user entered is correct. But what if the user does not exist? That's the first thing. So if the user does not exist, let's throw an error. So you know what? I'll just grab this line here, copy this, and just below this guy, I'll just paste that in. However, I'm going to change the condition in here. I'll say that if there is no user with that email, so if the user does not exist, then I'll throw an error. I will say user not found, please sign up. So user not found, please sign up. Okay, so that makes sense. Yeah. All right, so next we want to check if the password is correct. So the user is giving us email and password. Let's check if the password is correct. So let's say user exists. Now check, what am I writing here? Check if password is correct. Great. So how are we going to check? So I'll say const, and I will give this variable password is correct. It's a long one, but I mean it describes what I'm trying to do. Now for us to check if the password is correct, we're going to use bcrypt. So let's import it. I remember I removed it from my import here, so I'll just bring it in one more time. It's bcrypt, and it's going to look for bcrypt.js. Wow, I was expecting autocomplete to help me so that I'm very sure. Okay, so we're just going to import bcrypt.js. You know what, let me just check my, I've imported it before in the models. Oh, this is going to waste time. So models, user model, just to be sure that I imported it correctly. So this is it. Yeah, I think I imported it correctly. All right, so let's continue. I'll go back to my user controller, and yeah, so it's correct. So bcrypt.js. So we're going to check if the password is correct. And remember, before we save the password, we hashed it with bcrypt. Bcrypt also has the functionality to compare the raw password you give when you want to log in with what is saved in the database. So how are we going to apply that? Well, we're going to say await, and it's bcrypt dot compare. Aha, so I'm getting my autocomplete. I'm very happy with that. Let me expand my code editor. So bcrypt.compare. Now what do we want to compare? We want to compare the password that the user gives us right here with what is stored in the database. So here I'm just going to come here and say I want to compare the password, yeah, and the next parameter will be, what do you want to compare the password with? Well, we want to compare it with what's in the database, right? And remember, we've already confirmed that the user exists in the database, and we saved it inside this user variable. So what that means is that we have access to all the information about the user in this variable here. So here I can now come here and say compare it with the user dot password. Okay, great. Now we'll compare. Then we are going to log the user in if the user exists in the database and the password is correct, or not necessarily log the user in. We're going to get the user information. So let's get the user information. So here I'll say if, let's open this up, the user, which is if the user exists, and the password is, oh sorry, not like that, and password is correct. Then what do we want to do? Well, we want to retrieve the information about that user. So I'll just say response.json, and let's open that up and open it as an object. So what I want to do here is very similar to what I did when I registered the user. So I'll just go there up and you grab the code. So if you come here towards the end here, you'll notice that we did identically the same thing. So we're returning the information about the user after we sign up that user. Okay, so I'll just grab everything you see here like this up to this guy. I'll copy that and I'll just go down and then just slot that in. So in the place of this response.json, let's just replace everything here. All right, so first off, we destructure all the information about that user, and then we returned it here. The only thing we're going to change is this status. This 201 means that you've created a new piece of entry in your database. So let me just leave it as 200, which is like a successful response or an okay response. Then also I've not created the token yet, so I'll just get rid of that. Then lastly, I'm going to add an else statement if there is a situation where the user and the password is not correct. So let's just come here to this part here, and then let's add our else block and open that up. And we're just going to grab an error. So something we've done before, 400 error is fine. I'll copy that, and then I'll just come here and paste it in. Aha, so this time maybe something was wrong with the entry, maybe the email or the password was invalid. So I'll just say invalid lead email or password. So you don't want to let the user know exactly what was wrong. Just tell them one of them was invalid, either the email or the password, and they should be able to understand that they will check the form and find out what is the problem. So now we're going to save and let our server restart. So I'll just save and let the server restart. Okay, so server has started. Now I will open my Insomnia app, and then let's test this guy here. So remember, at least I'm sure we have user 4 because that's the last thing we created, and this is the password. So let's send it and see if we get the information back. I'll send, fingers crossed. Voila. So you see, we now have the information about this specific user. But let's try and maybe send with a wrong password. So I'll just add password 4 here, and then I'll send, and let's see. Aha, so you see we get invalid email or password. I'll make it correct, and then I'll just remove the email. User 4, Ctrl X to cut it out and send. Please add email and password. Okay, let's paste that back in, and then if we have an email that does not exist in the database, so let me just make this user 5, which we've not created. I'll send user not found, please sign up. So you see, technically we've been able to at least log in that you not log in the user, at least get access to the data of the user in the database. So now what we're going to do next is we're going to log in the user. And remember, to log in the user, we need to create a token, okay, just like we did before. And because we've done it before, I mean, it's going to be a little bit faster, and at least we are familiar with the process right now. So we're going to generate a token, and then we're going to send a cookie to our front end with that token. But guess what, we've done that before, so there's no need to reinvent what we've done before. So let's just come here to our register user functionality, this place where we generated the token and we sent it to the front end. I'm just going to grab this guy like this. Okay, I'll just grab this guy, I'll copy it, and then I'll just generate a token here as well and send to the front end. So after I confirm that the password is correct, and after I've gotten the user, I'll just come down. So below this check if password is correct functionality, I'll just come here and paste in the two block of code. So the first one is to generate a token using the user ID. Then the second one is to send that token to the front end. So you see response.cookie, we're sending it as a HTTP only cookie to the front end. So now let's go ahead and save this guy and then test again to see if we will have access to the token. By the way, let's also send the token here because we now have it token, and then I'll save. So let my server restart, and then I'll just come here now and send it one more time. Okay, great. So I'm going to sign in this user again, and let's see if we're going to have access to the token. So user 4 Zeno123 send. So you see, we're able to get the information of the user. And if you let me expand this guy so that we can see properly what's going on here. Expand. So you can see now we now have this token that was generated using the user ID. Now also, if you come to this cookie and then you click on it, you'll notice that we also have a token here, and this is what is going to be sent to the front end. This is assumed that this is the front end, so it's going to be sent to the front end, and with that we can now know that this user is properly validated, give the user access to our application, or log the user in. So that's about it for logging our user into our application. Thank you so much for watching this one. I'll see you in the next one.